Welcome to the BK Show podcast. This is episode number 41, and today I am joined by my good friend, Brian Tweer. Brian is the founder of Jersey Shore Supplements, a retail supplement store chain with 6 locations on the Jersey Shore. He is also the founder of Astroflav, which is a premium supplement company that will help you become the best version of yourself, also known for their out-of-this-world flavors. I met Brian at a mastermind, and we quickly hit it off and became friends. We stayed in touch. We ended up working together on a consulting basis for a while. In fact, we almost became business partners at one point. That never worked out, but I'm glad to know Brian as a friend. He's truly one of the nicest human beings I think I've ever met, and just a super genuine guy. I am thrilled to share his story on here. We dive into a little bit of cryptocurrency in the beginning, so I hope you don't mind that talk. But we get into his story of how he started his retail stores, how that moved into his own brand of supplements. What did that look like during COVID, and working with influencers and all kinds of good stuff. Brian has a wonderful story, and again, he's just a wonderful human being, and I'm thankful he was willing to come on the show and tell his story. So real quick, at the end of this show, we pretty much do an ad for Bonjoro. So I will say this show is brought to you by Bonjoro, benkoneganoff.com/Bonjoro, where you can send personalized videos after purchase or on your customers' birthdays, or really anything you want to connect Shopify to tell you when to send a video. I think we do a good job of explaining it late on in this episode, so feel free to check that out. But I can't speak highly enough of Bonjoro. I know Brian uses it in his businesses as well and loves it, so definitely check out the end of the episode where you hear about that. But without further ado, let's dive into today's episode with Brian Tweer. Brian Tweer, welcome to the show, buddy.
Ben, what's going on? How are you? How you been?
I am pumped that you are here. We haven't chatted in quite a while, so I'm glad to have you back on, and we chatted for a bit before this, and all of it was gold. So I was like, let's hit record and just start recording this.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an honor to be here and to get a chance to catch up with you. It's been a minute.
I'm sure I said in the intro that you own Jersey Shore Supplements and Astroflav, which is proteins, and looks like you got a bunch of new products that I haven't seen before either. What is this flip mode? What is that? Pre-workout? Is that renamed what you had before, or is this new?
Yeah, we changed the formula and came out with a new pre-workout, high energy, have you bouncing off the walls, all that good stuff.
Nice. Well, I'm sure we'll dive into Astroflav more. People definitely want to hear about your some of your delicious protein mixes. You sent me a care package right after I first met you, so I've tried all these things, but no, I kind of want to see what Kriya Pump and Flip Mode. I want to hear all these hacks that make me turn into, what is it, yoked? Is that the word? I want to get yoked.
Yeah, we'll go with yoked.
Is that like 1990s language? Did it turn into something? What does it turn into now?
I can't keep up with these terms nowadays. I'm in the same boat as you. We're the same age. We're in the same boat.
Well, your site is fire. I watch TikTok enough to know a little bit of the lingo, but I need to. Yeah, I feel old, man. It's weird that at 36 that I'm losing touch.
You were one of the first people mentioning TikTok. To me, at least, I heard you mention it a few times. I never got on board with it. Looking back, I probably should have, now that I see how successful some people have been on there. But yeah, I never took wind to it. But you were one of the first.
I don't know about successful necessarily as like when I met you. Gosh, when was it? Like August 2019, I think, or somewhere back in 2019. And TikTok was really not out there yet. I think this is right when Gary Vee just started talking about TikTok. And it was addicting. It still is. Like I can't go on there and not swipe for a good 30 minutes until I get like the standard TikTok guy going, it's time to go to bed. All of these videos will be here tomorrow. And I'm like, son of a bitch, I've been on here that long?
Yeah, it's bad. I stopped watching and stopped looking on there because, again, I would look, I would open the app and be on there for a good half hour, an hour before you even realize you got nothing done. So I had to step away from it for some time.
I think my favorite part of it is knowing that the younger generation is growing up to be creators. Yeah. A lot of the kids I know, they're like, yeah, I want to be a YouTuber when I grow up. That's amazing to me. I was very shy and I didn't want to come out of my box. So the idea that they're growing up with this being totally normal, and I think we're going to be in a wonderful world in 5-10 years of just full of creators making amazing things. And TikTok's a great example of that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's cool and scary also. Well, you have a little one on the way, as I have two daughters. So it's a little bit nerve-wracking at the same time, but interesting and exciting as well. It's fun to watch.
Well, I talked to Taylor Holiday on a previous episode about a little bit about the metaverse. I think it's going to be, it's hard to imagine, but our kids' lives are going to be in VR goggles. It's going to be like Ready Player One in 20 years, right? And it's hard to fathom that. You already have people, at least in my timeline, when I was a kid, I played in the backyard. I didn't play on my tablet. Well, no shit. We didn't have fucking tablets, man. Like life's changing, and it's only going to change for the better, right? Everything's getting simpler. Everything's getting easier and faster. And I look forward to not being, look, my dad's 60, just got an iPhone. And he's, holding it 10 feet away from him, pushing buttons. And I'm like, man, I don't want to be that at 60. Like I need to keep up with technology, or you're going to get blown away. Like Moore's law says we're going to do everything twice as fast over and over and over again. Right. And so if you think where we were in 2002, when I graduated high school and I still had my Nokia brick phone, where we've gone in just 20 years, we're going to do that same thing in the next 10 years. And then we're going to do that again in the next 5 years. Right. And so 15 years, we're going to quadruple what we did in the 20 years since high school. Yeah.
It's fascinating. It's an interesting ride that we're on for sure.
Well, your ride started like right before the call, you started talking about, a little bit of cryptocurrency. So, I want to, before I even get into your story, I want to talk a little cryptocurrency. What is this coin? You told me to look up a coin before we started talking. You said Mike Dillard might've tipped you off on it.
Yeah. Mike Dillard actually had somebody on his podcast a few years ago. The gentleman's name was Tweer, and he, actually had a newsletter, Palm Beach Confidential, and that's where I came across this coin. And it's the initials. It's called Engine Coin. It's ENJ if you were to look it up. And got in around last March, and it's been going pretty wild recently, especially with the whole NFTs. So
I'm looking at it. I'm trying to understand what it does. So Engine Coin is a project of Engine, a company that provides an ecosystem of interconnected blockchain-based gaming products. A social gaming platform through which users can create websites and clans, chat, and host virtual item stores. Do you know anything more about it, or you were simply like tipped off?
Yeah, you know what? And it's funny to come full circle is when I looked back at it, I thought it was interesting. I knew, for example, Fortnite and all the money that's spent on the skins and not being able to actually own them and possess them. So I looked at it like that. So I invested a small amount into it. And the reason why I went with that one, he mentioned 5 other coins. That one in particular was the easiest for me personally to purchase. So it was just a matter of it being easy and accessible. I invested a little into it, and it's turned out to pay out quite a bit.
Well, you said before the call that you sold a full Bitcoin, which you said it was in March. So that was like 3,000, 4,000 to buy into this. Like, do you regret moving it from Bitcoin, which also went bananas, to this coin?
Yeah, no. So at the time, I think, looking back, I think it was it's way back up. It was at about 6,500, give or take. Now with Bitcoin, I've been investing in Bitcoin for quite some time, since the end of the last bull run. So towards 2018, believe it or not, I sold my house in 2019 and took a lot of that proceeds from there and put that into Bitcoin. So I've been in the space for quite some time. Just listening to some people that I find influential and that I look up to that have got me on board. And it's been a very interesting and exciting ride so far, to say the least.
Let me preface this. We are not financial advisors. This is not financial advice, but I find this stuff interesting. Like the NFTs, I totally understand where it's going in the future. I had a little bit of a talk with Taylor Holiday about that on my podcast. I completely believe we're going to the metaverse in the future, and that, the skins, it's going to play in the real world. I already saw a guy in e-commerce fuel who's selling clothing, and with the clothing, you get an NFT, and you can take that clothing and, that skin into any of the places that you're playing online. And I do see that to be the future. But these coins are interesting. I think you heard from Mike Dillard, as did I. He put out a course, it had to be early in the pandemic. And he said, this could change your life. This is where we're going. Here's I'm going to tell you 3 coins inside this course that you should invest in. Mike, if you're listening, you didn't do a very good job of blurring out your sales page. And so I was very clear that it was Uniswap, Chainlink, and VeChain. And I did not know where to buy VeChain. I found Chainlink and I found Uniswap pretty fast. And so I too put a bunch of money on there. Not a bunch, but enough. And yeah, I think Uniswap has 10x since I started that, and Chainlink has 4x since I saw him post that.
Yeah. I'm in the same camp as you. I saw the same post, and I knew which ones they were. VeChain I didn't purchase because, again, of the platform that it was being sold on. I didn't go through the hassle of that. Which, looking back, I do regret not investing in that one as well. And again, this is not financial advice. This is just I would preference this, as well as I am not very knowledgeable in the space, in the sense that I'm not going to be able to give you the breakdown on everything in that manner. But what I would say is that success does leave clues. And when the smartest people in every room that you're going in is continuously beating the same drum, I think it's pretty blatant that there's something going on there. So yeah, that was kind of how I got into it.
Well, I think everybody listening to this is either thinking about starting a business or has started a business. And traditional finance that you learn as a kid might not necessarily be the best advice for you. It's the same advice that told you to go to college, get a degree, get married, have many kids, buy a home, save till you're, old and gray, and maybe you'll get to retire then. And so, I exited a business. You run multiple profitable businesses. I would imagine a lot of people listening do too. And it's, my education is just beginning on figuring out where do you put that money to work, because I definitely don't want it sitting in a savings account. And, I want to invest it into many opportunities. I want to diversify and not just go, chuck it all in VU, and hope for 8% for the rest of time. And the best part of, and the worst probably soon, of when I started coming into extra money to put places was you really couldn't be wrong the last 10 years. Like the market and coins and everything has gone through the roof. So we all look really, really smart. That has to come to an end at some point, unless we just keep printing money. But yeah, it doesn't matter where you put it. We all look pretty smart.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree.
So out of pure curiosity, what other coins are you hodling at the moment?
No. So really I was just a big Bitcoin guy for 3 to 4 years. I was anti anything else. Not that I was a complete Bitcoin maxi and bashing everything else. I just wasn't knowledgeable on the other space, and the other coins. I have a little bit of Ethereum, Uniswap, Link, Engine, and Aave, and that's about it.
You haven't heard of that last one?
Yeah, it's a DeFi, decentralized finance coin.
There's so many out there. It's hard to know where to begin. And then once you even dive through the first layer of talk, you got to be smart. You have to really, really understand this stuff, and it can be confusing. And I just want to be open with people. So if you ever the coins I'm holding, same thing: Uniswap, Link, Cardano. Big fan of Zcash. I think it's the privatized Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Bitcoin, Ethereum. Actually looking into mining Ethereum at the moment for whatever's left in time before they go to proof of stake. Which is a whole nother conversation of proof of work versus proof of stake. And look, I'm still learning this stuff too. I'd actually love to have someone on here who knew what they were talking about. And, I'd love to talk to Vitalik or somebody like that. But I feel like I'd be too dumb to even have the founder of Ethereum on the show, which, by the way, he's 27 years old. How dumb does that make you feel?
Yeah, it's wild. It's crazy to see what he's accomplished at such a young age. The knowledge that they hold is it's unbelievable.
Yeah, I do wish, I get a little FOMO. I think I've told this story on the show. I called the dip in Bitcoin right before December. I had some, and I knew it was going to dip. I thought it would go from 20 to 12. And so I was just kind of waiting for it. I was going to sell. I was going to buy a few at 12. And I went on a walk and I saw it go from 20 to 16 on my walk. And I was like, that's it. And I hit sell on my walk. I was like, it's coming right now. I get home, it's already back to 20. And that it just went up from there. And at 25, I should have bought. At 30, I should have bought. And I'm just sitting there
you're saying most recent?
Yeah, right before December. Yeah.
Talking about in 2017. Okay.
Yeah. And so I called it and I missed it. And then I got ego involved, right? Where I was like, well, I can't buy now because I could have bought at 16. So yeah, a little kick in the ass on that. I've done well on some of the other coins. I wish I knew a little bit more about some of them. Like I said, I'm a big believer in what I think Zcash is trying to be. Obviously, I think Bitcoin can be digital gold. There's a wonderful series from Michael Saylor where he does 10 episodes on walking through the history of why this makes sense. And if you ever want to listen to 20 hours of audio about,
is it with Robert Breedlove interviewing him?
I would have to look it up. It makes great audio for me to look up stuff while we're talking. I'm sure I can't even see the name of it. It just says the Sailor series on my phone. But if you look up the Sailor series, I think you'll find it on iTunes. It's very good. Walks you through the movement of financial systems, and really it's a history lesson over the last 10 years. And I learned a lot from that. And that truly turned me into a believer. Actually, the first time I ever talked about it was to my friend TC, and he was like, yeah, I bet you're a believer. How many do you own? And I was like, wait, like, I don't own enough. I wish I owned more, because I'm a believer now. I'm not trying to pump it by any means. I just, I'm a believer of where it could go. And I think, so Zcash is the same thing, 21 million coins only, but it's private, right? You can choose to make it private. So nobody can see your bank statements right now. What you're buying, and I bet you don't want them to, right? And so on Bitcoin, you have a wallet. They can't necessarily associate you with a wallet, but some wallets are being identified currently, and I don't think everybody's going to want to know everywhere they're spending their money in the future.
Yeah, no, I agree. I've heard of Zcash also.
Well, and it's 4.5 years in, and it's at the exact same price Bitcoin was at 4.5 years in. So I'm sure you'd like to go back and buy Bitcoin at $180.
Yeah.
And you have to believe offshore money is going to move there, right? Offshore money probably doesn't want to be traced where they're moving a lot of money. And so even if just 10% of offshore money moves into that to move their money around, that would jump it to the price of Bitcoin. Again, not financial advice. I'm just a believer. I truly am. I see the application, and I appreciate hearing any information. I know Vitalik was recently on a podcast talking about it as well. So well, we can get out of the muddy waters of coins, and I'd love to hear your story, man. Like, you and I worked together. I met you at a mastermind, and we started working together a little bit. And but I don't really know the origin of, like, how did Jersey Shore supplements even get started? Like, talk me through your entrepreneurial journey of how you started really selling anything, or how you got into, like, building a brick and mortar store. That doesn't sound easy.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess I would start when I was in school and college. I actually worked for a supplement store, local small mom and pop shop. Always had a passion for working out. I think it came along with the sports background and all that stuff. So I was always into the fitness side of things and the supplements, and learning how the body works and reacts to different products. And one thing led to another. I stopped working for that store. The store actually is no longer there. And I was in between kind of finding my calling after I graduated from college, and I was working out with one of my buddies down by where he lives, about an hour from where I went to school. And long story short, we ended up finding an empty retail location that was right next to an old gym that's been there for 30 plus years, 24 hours, 365 type gym. And we just were kicking a can. It was right around, I don't know if you remember, Superstorm Sandy coming through New Jersey. So it was right around that time. Power was out. We had nothing going on, and we just started brainstorming. And one thing led to another. I followed up on it, ended up renting a 450 square foot storefront next to this gym in a town that was not very populated, and just ran with it. Started with the 3 shelves on each side, little product, and just snowballed it. Literally bootstrapped it, didn't know what I was doing, what I was getting into, and kind of just let my gut lead me, and was fortunate enough to have some people help me along the way, introduce me to this person, and then from there to the next person, and so on and so forth, to where now we have 5 established stores. That original store has been there for over 8 years. Yeah, it's been an interesting ride, but very fun nonetheless.
So for the person out there listening that's like wondering how did you even begin, right? You see this space open, you're working at a mom and pop shop. How did you even know, like, number one, you're going to go rent this place? What does 450 square foot rent for in New Jersey?
Yeah, so that was one of the things that benefited me, and I was fortunate to find a space that was low overhead. So I think at the time when I first rented it that year, I want to say it was about $800 a month. So I didn't have that huge, monthly payment hanging over my head. I mean, it's still $800 that you have to come up with, but it wasn't a significant amount compared to some of these other locations that we've looked at since then. That being said, I did have the knowledge of working in a store, so I knew the behind the scenes aspect of it. I knew who to contact for products, who the suppliers were, so on and so forth, what to price the products for. So I kind of just took the leap, went from there, ordered some product. I didn't know, that I was going to be glued to this place, having to work, every single hour. Obviously, that, but I don't think it sunk in until I hit that open sign and realized, okay, I can't leave. I can't just leave the store. I'm here for the long haul. So, yeah, I would say if somebody listening to this, like, if I was giving advice, I recently was speaking with somebody and I just said, it's funny because you think you need to know it all to get started. The biggest thing I would say is to get started, and then don't be afraid to ask for help. One thing leads to another, and the contacts and connections that you make, people are always willing to help as long as you're open-minded and not afraid to ask for it.
Yeah, action comes first, though, right?
Yeah.
So, look, you had to set aside $800. I bet you had to sign a multi-year lease. If I'm wrong on that.
Because the space wasn't, so that was the other thing too. The space was pretty run down. I don't think the owner of the building really had much vision for it. I don't think it was ever a retail space. It was more of like an office type hybrid space that we did some work to. And yeah, it wasn't total investment. I probably came out of pocket 15,000 with product, shelving, some renovation work. So, I mean, it was everything that I had saved to that point. And I say 15,000, it was probably closer to 10. And then as I was going and making some sales, I just kept reinvesting back into it. So like I mentioned earlier, I started with 3 shelves on each side. I would sell 1 product, buy 2, sell 2, buy 4, and so on and so forth, and just kept snowballing it. Living very below my means. At the time, I didn't need much to get by, and I wasn't out spending. So I was able to focus on the business and reinvest that money back into it. But yeah, even starting off, I mean, it's not like, okay, I turned that open sign on and customers were, lining up out the door. There were a lot of days where I was in the back of that store playing PlayStation, nobody coming in for hours. And it was just basically like, what friend wanted to come by and visit me for the day and hang out, until we finally started getting some momentum, some good traction by taking care of customers and doing things the right way. Each customer then telling a friend, referring somebody else, and was able to snowball it and have some success with that.
So oftentimes you hear advice that says, if you want to learn how to do something, go work for somebody doing it, and this is how you can learn, right? And so you're a prime example of that you were working at a mom and pop shop, which allowed you to discover the suppliers, discover what was selling already, so that you knew you could bring in the right product. But like, how did you get those first customers? Obviously being right next to a gym sounds fantastic, but like, were you outside, yelling at everybody walking in and out of that gym? Did you make a partnership with the gym? Did you just put up product and hope and pray while you were playing PlayStation in the back?
A little bit of all that. No, it was, so the gym, we didn't have like a specific partnership with them. And you're bringing me down memory lane, because I'm just thinking of how did I get those customers coming in? It was me basically taking a bag of samples. So I knew the busy times of the gyms, you get the rush hour at, people get off of work 5 to 6 or 7. So when the customers, or when the gym members would be leaving, I was standing outside the gym handing out free samples. I used to put a little speaker outside of the store, so play some upbeat music. When customers would walk by, it would catch their attention, all the way to leaving flyers on members' cars after in the parking lot in the gym. It was tough to get that initial momentum going. I would say one thing that did help us, that looking back on it, that really helped build our business, was t-shirts. So we were giving out free t-shirts with purchases at one point. Once I was able to get a couple customers in and build up a little bit of money behind us to invest into that was like a significant tipping point for us, where then you started seeing the shirts around and people were saying, starting to recognize the apparel, and in the gyms, it started really catching wind.
Yeah, I think that was one thing that shocked me when I started working with you. So I had never really dealt with a supplement company, and you guys had all kinds of gear on your site. And I was like, do people buy this, right? Like, I've worked with other companies where gear didn't really matter in that industry. But the swag definitely like worked out for you guys. People wanted to rep it in their Instagram photos, and, they wanted to almost like the brand they have, every other brand sucks. Like, it's very polarizing, right? They choose one brand and they stick with it.
Yeah. And what's funny is there was a competitor that in the area that used to do t-shirts galore, every different color, all this type of stuff. And, customers used to come into our store and be like, hey, when are you getting shirts? And in my head, it didn't click for me. So I would be like, why do they want to wear a supplement company's shirt? I don't get it. Like, and I continuously kept having that battle. And then finally I realized it's exactly what you just said. It almost, it's like tribal, like they want to show where they shop and who they're friends with. And it becomes a who's who in a sort of way. And it goes back to the culture of that store. So top down, where, I feel like if you're treating people the right way, they're proud to represent that brand. And yeah, it catches on very quickly if you're doing the right things.
Yeah, I'm just so not in that industry, right? My brain moves to like the CrossFit people who,
Yeah.
I think that this spreads across other places. I would say vegans are the same way. It's just some people are so into things they don't shut up about it, right? And I found that in your industry, if you could just get them to get your product, love your product, they're going to want your shirts, they're going to want your hats, they're going to want your bags, they're going to post on Instagram every day and tag you about it. Like it was insane to me working with you, the amount of brand equity and tribalism, if you will, that was out there in your industry.
Yeah, absolutely. And we used to look at it when I would look at our expenses, and I used to look at it as a pretty heavy expense to be giving out shirts, and we're at the point now where we give them out and we do sell apparel, but initially we were only giving them out for free. So I was always looking at that as a pretty heavy burden on the business, looking at this, saying to myself, how could we keep affording to do this? And then again, another aha moment was, how can you quantify customers wearing your apparel in the gym? How many times are they going to wear that shirt? How many times are they talking to their friends with that apparel on? And I don't know if you'll ever be able to directly correlate one to the other, but over the term of our existence, it's paid out many times over.
So early in that first store, are you handing out clothes outside of the gym? Or like my brain would move to, how are you stopping people going in and saying, hey, take a shot of this pre-workout on their way out. Hey, take a shot of this protein. And they want both of them by the time you're done. That's where my brain goes. Yeah,
we were doing, and I keep saying I forget where I heard this, but it's like anytime you're in business and you're under X amount of number of people, you just say we. It was me solo by myself out there.
The royal we, yeah.
Yeah, just handing out packets of supplements. And even with the apparel, like I was just so happy that customers took the time to walk into our store, that I was just extremely grateful to be able to interact with them. And I was giving out shirts without purchases. Just the fact that they wanted to wear the apparel was like flattering to me.
I know the margins are good in your business, but how long was it lean, right? How long did that first store stick around where you're, living off of probably a whole lot of nothing, and reinvesting and reinvesting and reinvesting? Like how long did that period last?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, it goes back to, I was never looking at the dollar signs or the amount of profit per, customer coming in. And at some point, the customers were coming in such volume that then it started making sense. And I'm like, okay, well, if we were ordering bigger quantities, we could, beef up the margins that we're making percent wise. So I would definitely say it took a few years for sure. It wasn't just an overnight thing. It definitely at least 2 to 3 years before we started becoming profitable to being able to reinvest and start making some moves with it.
Help me understand the transition from one store to 5 stores, right? When do you know, hey, this 450 square foot, like, is there a number where you're saying we're making X amount of dollars per square foot and it is obvious to move? Are you getting demand from other parts of New Jersey?
Yeah, it wasn't so much the numbers. The numbers obviously were starting to make sense, but it was more so the demand. We were getting a heavy demand from customers in a specific area. They were driving to us. It was about 25 to 30 minutes away to where we started then, looking at opportunities in the next area where, again, the next area was another location that was butted up next to a gym. So we saw the opportunity there. There was no conflict of interest with the gym. They didn't mind that we were there. Again, it's complimentary to them. If anything, it helps the gym owners. But yeah, that was another opportunity where it wasn't specifically, okay, we have this many customers coming in. It was more so the demand from a specific area.
I think one of the themes that like stands out to me, just because I know you from working together, is it's a tried and true business lesson you should learn is listen to your customers, right? And so you worked at a mom and pop shop. You obviously knew what was selling, so you brought it into your store. You started listening to what people going to the gym were asking for, clothing wise. So you started bringing that into your store. How, there's a bunch more of these as we move forward, but like, how do you think people from 25, 30 minutes away why were they coming to your store when you were likely selling the same stuff most other supplement stores, GNCs were selling?
Yeah, I think we had a competitive advantage because we were selling some unique products. That's to an extent, but then I look at it from a different perspective. And if I was to look at it as that customer that was driving from, X amount of minutes away, the reason why I think that they were taking that trip was, again, it was something that we were instilling in the energy that we were giving off, and we were showing compassion to each customer coming in. Again, people just want to relate. They want to be heard at the end of the day. So we were looking at it, and I was looking at it as if I was a customer first. So if I was going to be experiencing, shopping for supplements, what would I like? And I was molding that with what I've learned in the past from working at a brick and mortar store to being a customer myself, knowing what I would like, what I wouldn't like, and then almost forming my own, taking bits and pieces of each aspect to where we were able to kind of come up with a proprietary, geez, cut that. Why couldn't I say that? That was bad.
I'm totally leaving this in now. This is good. Proprietary, I'm guessing.
Proprietary. I don't know why he was struggling with that one. Where did I leave off? Yeah, it just gave us a proprietary advantage to be able to run with it.
Can you walk me through the timeline on 1 to 5 stores? Was it like one a year? Was it multiple per year?
Yeah. So then we got to the point where, okay, we see what's working, what's not working. We kind of have our formula down pat, how to expand on the multiple locations. And then it came down to personnel. So in order to open up these stores and to give the same experience, you need to have the right fit as far as employees and guys that are going to be able to pass that message on. If you don't have that, you're not able to open up multiple stores. You would see that store quickly declining. So we were almost then looking at it like, okay, if we have such and such employee that is ready to run their own store, then we were looking for opportunities to put them in place. So it started with basically making sure that we had the right fit as far as employee base, and then being able to find the location. The location was always easier for us. It's a people problem that was always the tough part, to find the right fit for us, and then being able to put them in the right place.
And I don't want to dive too deep in the weeds, but I would assume, are you trying to keep these businesses separate? Each location is its own business, and financially and legally and everything, you're keeping them all separated?
Yeah, I mean, we have them separate to an extent. At the same time, we do ship to a centralized hub. We ship everything to one warehouse, and then we redistribute it to each store individually. Now, we weren't doing that initially. We were just shipping separately when we first got up and running with multiple locations. And then when we got to a certain time and place, I think it was when we were at 4 locations, we started shipping everything to a centralized warehouse and redistributing it ourselves.
So these are very spread out. What is the timeline there as far as I think I asked you this, but I'm not sure if you answered. What is the timeline from did you work your way up the coast? I think if you're listening, go to Google and just type in Jersey Shore supplement locations. You'll see they're all up and down the east coast of New Jersey. Did you work your way up? Did you do one a year? How did you anticipate demand and also not go broke in this process?
Yeah, it was basically one store per year for the most part. We did launch 2 in a year. And that was a little bit of a burden on just our staff and financially. So 1 a year, and it was basically based on demand from customers coming in. If we were seeing heavy inflow from a specific area, then we started looking to open a location in that area. Another thing that I would touch on also was our employees, and where we groom our guys from. First and foremost, are all customers of ours before it wasn't cold applications coming in. It was guys who were shopping with us, who we built relationships with, where we said, okay, this person is good at making friends. They'd be a good fit. Anybody could learn the supplement side of things. You could teach that. I don't think you can necessarily teach the personality side of things. I think that comes naturally. So that's how we were fortunate to be able to come up with a great crew and great group of guys, to where then you could really start speeding up the process.
Well, if we fast forward from there, again, you listen to your customers, they were coming to you and telling you there is no good tasting protein powders on the market, or how did Astroflav come about? I know it's from listening to the customers, but when you're having such success opening brick and mortar locations, what makes you say, I want to create my own line to sell in these stores? Yeah,
I think it comes down to just looking at the industry as a whole and saying, we're reaching X amount of customer base by having these brick and mortar stores. But if we were on an e-commerce platform and being able to expand, we'd be able to reach a lot more of an audience, a lot wider audience. And also too, being like you just mentioned, hearing our customers come in and basically taking their complaints and tweaking the products that they were, not necessarily caring for, or on the other side of things, hearing what customers did like that we felt we might be able to improve on with a few changes. Then we were able to go back to a couple of our manufacturers who we had relationships with just through the industry, and basically be able to come up and develop our own product line.
Well, there's some monsters out there, right? You're competing against some big names, and again, super tribal. Like, I can picture a few brands who, when we were working together, I started following them. Now I can't get them out of my feed, no matter what I do. Some of their athletes that are brand ambassadors for them and things like that. And so, did you have limiting beliefs of like, can we actually do this when you sit there and you just have 5 stores on the Jersey coast and you're thinking of trying to compete with these monsters?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's always something that is in the back of our minds is, do we belong here? And then it gets down to the point where when you start listening to these backstories of how these companies and how some of our competitors got started, and you look around the room and you say, if anything, we're the ones that do belong here, because we're on the front line day in and day out. We're the people, and we're the ones that are seeing our customers face to face every day in our own stores. So if we can't represent our brand in our own stores and be proud of it, then, I think that says a lot about us. So to be able to take that experience and lean into it, and be able to really run with that, I think that's what gives us the competitive advantage, is always being able to go back to our own backyard. And, we're seeing the customers on a daily, thousands of customers, being able to look them confidently in the face and be able to present to them the best products that we have to offer.
I think my favorite part of your story is this transition right here, right? So I've worked with some retailers, same sort of thing, online retailers, right? High ticket drop shipping. And eventually, if you get good enough at SEO, you start taking a large portion of market share for generic terms or for a specific market, at which point you're going to sell a lot of other people's products. You're going to learn a lot from them as far as what customers like, what customers don't like, what features they wish existed in the market that don't exist yet. And you can go out and create your own product and then simply put it in this digital retail space in front of people and say, this is the best product out there for this. And it's yours. You can have better margins. And so you're doing the very same thing in your, I'm going to call it little, right? Your little Jersey market over there, but you have thousands of customers, and so you've gotten plenty of feedback. It's almost like you're doing product iteration before you've ever even had a product, right? And then at that point, you can simply display it in front of people and say, hey, we went out of our way to make the best damn product out there. You named it, Astroflav for a reason. You have some pretty awesome flavors of protein powder. If anybody listening's ever tried a protein powder, you probably know they all taste like shit. And so Brian's don't, right? Go to astroflav.com and try one of his protein powders, and I think you'll see the difference.
Yeah, no, I think you nailed it with that. The other thing that's pretty cool and unique about our capabilities is that even before we develop a product and we bring it to market, we have the capabilities of sampling it in store. So we could sample it to our customers before ever even slapping a label on it, developing it, and doing a full run of it. And then also as well, our staff, everybody that's involved in the process, we're all in the industry and we all use the supplements ourselves. So it's a perfect combination, being able to get advice from our customer base, our own guys in-house, and then being able to work one-on-one with one of the top manufacturers in the country to be able to bring that vision to life.
Yeah, you're preaching to the right guy. Like I just love when I'm working with entrepreneurs who are in their niche, if you will, right? Like they are their customer. And I love when people sell retail first to get a gauge of the market rather than just coming out with a product and hoping for the best. And it's a real jumpstart, right? You don't have to go through the headaches of, throw it on Amazon and hope Amazon doesn't screw you, or you actually rank on there to sell some product. Like you already have the people in front of you. You're already talking to your customer. And so it's much easier to figure out exactly what they want, go create that, test with them, and launch to them. It's, I do it on a digital space, but you've done it in the real world. And I think that's just awesome.
Yeah, it's been an interesting journey, to say the least, because again, you look at some of these competitors and you say to yourself, it's a little bit frustrating at times because you want to scream and you want to say, listen, that's not what the customer wants. Like we're talking to the customers, we know what they want, and we're on the smaller side of things. So for us not to be able to have as loud of a voice as we might like at the time, at this moment, it can be a little bit frustrating. But again, we're making strides in the right direction, and we're excited.
I think it's the right way to start. You have a boost, but it still sucks. I know it sucks. And so talk me through some of the sucky stuff, right? Like, what was a minimum order quantity when you're ordering protein powder? I bet it wasn't, a couple $100.
Yeah, that's the other thing too, is our first SKU is actually protein. Now, if you were to look at the industry, most people would not do a protein powder because of the cost of goods, because of the minimum order sizes that you have to work with. There are manufacturers out there that will do favors for people. They'll do smaller runs, but then you're really skimping on the quality. We went to one of the top manufacturers again in the country, and in order for us to really even get our feet wet and start dabbling in the side of things, we had to have those retail locations up and running, because we had to provide our own stores with that product to be able to turn it over quick enough. Because again, the supplements have a shelf life. So if you're not moving them quick enough, it doesn't matter. You're going to be stuck with them. They're going to expire. So it almost works hand in hand to have those outlets, quote, with our own stores, to be able to sell them, and then being able to run larger quantities. It panned out to be pretty good. But yeah, the protein was quite a heavy burden as far as putting money out and the size of the inventory runs that we had to do and still have to do. But we're able to meet those a lot easier at this point than when we first started.
Yeah. When you hear supplements, you often hear how great the margins are. I was shocked in your business to learn the whole protein market as a whole. Margins suck. Like, they're terrible in there. And so the fact that you started there and your minimum order quantity was what? Can you speak to how many units you had to order right away?
When we first started working with the company, we had to do 3,500 per flavor. So per SKU. And now that being said, also with the protein, with the shipping, so you're looking at a cost of goods and then also what you're selling it for, and then the shipping, the logistics behind it as well come into play. So it's really eating into the margins. Now, on the flip side of that, what a lot of companies, I think, miss the mark on is that protein. And again, this all comes back to the retail side of things. We see this firsthand, is if you have a good protein and your product is a good product, customers will come back to that time and time again in that specific field. So the protein tends to be a repeat purchase. If you were doing another product, such as a pre-workout, you might have a good product, but a lot of times with pre-workout, that in particular category, customers are always turning that over. So they're going for the next product that comes out. So protein is like a staple foundation type product. So we knew if we could build a good foundation, again, as with anything, you build that good foundation, you could easily build up from there with new products introduced to the market and the brand.
Yeah, and I think I told you when we were working together that one of my friends, his agency runs ads for one of the biggest companies in the space, and to use his words, they said, go break even, spend as much as you can possibly spend and go break even. And I think you just need to get somebody in the door, right? And so if you can get them in the door on a protein that's going to make them stick, you can introduce them to the other products you have, then to the gear, which again shocked me. Like we started running when you and I worked together, some one-click upsells on some gear or some bundles, and it sold almost every time. It blew my mind how bad people wanted gear in this industry.
Yeah, it's funny to hear you say some of that stuff too, because it makes me realize the same concept applies to the brick and mortar retail side of things in person with the e-commerce. Is when I look back on it, I was out there handing out free sample packs and free shirts because I just wanted somebody in the door. What I do with that relationship from that point is on me. And I'm more than confident and comfortable taking that on and that responsibility on, knowing the customer journey and customer experience will be, bar none, it'll be better than what their experience with the other companies. So again, similar to what you're mentioning, is like they just want to break even on that cost of acquisition. We're in the same playing field, whether it's brick and mortar or e-commerce, is we just want to get in front of people because we know from there we'll be able to build on that and that relationship. And, same exact concept.
Well, you had a good jumpstart, right? You had people in your store and you were able to, front face. I would assume you put all of your stuff right at the front of the store and made a big deal out of it to your customers, right? And so you had a good jumpstart, but how do you move from there, right? So one thing I want to hear your story of how you move from there, but one thing I want to point out that you did that I think everybody needs to do is go find a mentor. And so you went and found Mike Dillard. You signed up for his mentoring program. And there's so many people out there. I met you at George Bryant's Mastermind. There's so many people out there that can help people. And I think honestly, I think people are afraid to spend money because they're looking for that direct ROI. And while Mike Dillard probably gave you a ton of great advice, in fact, I know he did, some of his connections are what really transformed your business as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. And exactly what you're saying is with mentorship and, courses and you, a lot of times you look at that price point up front and you're saying to yourself, well, how many sales am I going to get out of this right away? And a lot of times it doesn't work like that. You never know who you're going to meet or what's going to lead to the next thing. And you kind of just have to start by taking that leap of faith and being confident in what your capabilities are and what you're able to pick up on.
Well, one of the connections that came out of there was, the label guy, right? I believe he made all the labels for On It, and he made some of your labels too, and they really pop off, right? They're not bland labels. When I got them, I was shocked at how well your products looked. And was there any other things that like came out of, paying for knowledge that you can touch on?
Yeah, I mean, shoot, I wouldn't even be on this podcast if it wasn't for that, because Mike led me to George, and George is where I met you, and so on and so forth. And we're working with a couple of people that I met through that event as well. It's been a, again, it's that domino effect. You never know who's going to introduce you to the next person.
Yeah, just side note in case anybody wants, George Bryant was episode 24. Big fan of what I learned in his mastermind. The episode right before him, episode 23, Nick Coates. You're now working with Sawtooth Media Group, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. George and Nick have taught me a lot, and they both been great.
Yeah, no matter what business you're in, go listen to episode 23 and 24. You are bound to learn something, I promise you there. George's 7 rules are something that we at an old company printed out and made the rules of our company, and we literally walked through all 7 of those and what they mean on episode 24. I can't recommend that enough. But Mike Dillard helped you come up with the name too, right? Like this out of this world flavor?
Yeah, Mike. So Mike was helping along with that rebranding process. We had to completely just start from scratch. We had a product in the past, and it was just a protein product, same product, just under a brand. It was called Coast to Coast. Little fun fact. And he just was like, yeah, that kind of sounds like a traveling agency. We got to scratch that. And then we just went back to the drawing board with trying to make sure that we could get the domain name, a domain name that fit the name, where it was an easy spelling. It wasn't too complicated. And then I just started kicking the ideas around, and that was the one that stuck.
So between Engine, Uniswap, and Astroflav, has Mike Dillard been the biggest impact on your life?
Mike's been great. He's been a great mentor to me. He's been a huge help. Even side note from that, I actually heard him on his podcast in the past mention an entrepreneurs organization, and that was an organization that I ended up signing up to, all from Mike's podcast. So yeah, again, it's like you don't know who you're going to meet from these events and from these seminars and the mentors and everything. It comes full circle. But you need to start. You need to take that initial step and take action.
Yeah, it's hard. I remember my first few events I went to, I didn't talk to anybody. I kind of sat in the corner. I was by myself. And, once I joined a few masterminds where interaction was forced, I started really meeting people that changed the trajectory of my life. And you got to pay for it. There's no free mastermind out there that's going to change your life. I promise you that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So look, when we started working together, it was right around COVID. Like I think we were working together for a few months before that, and then COVID hit, and I wanted to talk to you specifically on the show of like, how did COVID affect your brick and mortar businesses? And like, you had some unique ways to go around this, and I think you had some challenging laws in New Jersey you had to abide by. And so I'm genuinely curious, how did you survive being told by the governor, hey, you can't have people in your store anymore?
Yeah, I think that was right when we started working together. I think we were working, like you mentioned, a couple months right before all that went down. So that was almost like for lack of better, it was a kick in the ass to get this e-commerce side of things going, because I was kind of lackadaisical with that process and just kind of, taking our time on it as working on it as it was coming together. But that really was like the spark that we needed, where with the retail side of things, we had to close all of our locations. So we went back to just shipping out of our warehouse, literally answering the phones, like phone orders, old school. We visited the idea, and I was looking into actually setting up cameras. We were actually looking, and I don't know if I ever shared this with you, we were looking to do almost like a Zoom, like customers would be able to call in via Zoom or whatever platform we decided, and we would have cameras in the store and basically be able to walk them virtually through the store. I did it via FaceTime with a couple customers, and they thought it was cool. We never ended up moving on that. The restrictions ended up getting lifted before we had to take too much serious action towards that. But that was like an idea that we had. But yeah, it was quite a shock to our system when the gyms got shut down. So then you're getting a lot of people that weren't working out as much. Yeah, the at home workouts were increasing, but a lot of the supplement use was not. It came to quite a halt compared to prior. And this all happened in, what was it, last March? And March tends to be our busiest month in our industry and our own retail stores. And we went from what we were expecting to be our busiest month to literally getting 2 weeks into the month and then being completely shut down. So yeah, it was quite an experience.
Yeah, I mean, being told, hey, you can't have people in your store. All the gyms are closed. I remember I suggested you start experimenting with some messaging about, like, don't let this, change your routines, or, you know what I mean? Like, get fit at home. And I think you tried a bunch of things while we were working together. And man, I don't envy having to be in that position where, like, we became entrepreneurs so that nobody could fucking tell us what to do, right? Like, and now you're in a position where you're being told what to do. Like, man, I don't envy you being there. I respect you for pushing through that and getting to where you are now.
I mean, you were a huge help for us because, again, you had us. I almost felt like it was an insurance policy, being able to work with you and knowing that, okay, we at least have something else that we could lean on. And you came up with a few cool ideas. I think we ended up doing something with the shipping. Like, shipping was 20%. I forget the exact. We did a discount on the shipping because shipping was taking a little bit longer. I think it was like shipments are taking 20% longer. So we're going to give you a 20% discount on that side. And you were kicking off a couple of cool ideas that we were able to run with and implement. And I'm not sure if that was the exact example that I was looking for. I forget if that's what it was. Do you remember? But
yeah, it was something like that. Like, COVID delayed all the shipments, right? The USPS was having trouble. So I think we ran something like that. Shipments are taking 20% longer. Let's give you 20% off your order, and just really trying to anything, right? People were home. Who knew? Like, we didn't know whether this was going to be a 2-week thing. Like, Trump said, everybody stay home for two weeks. We'll all get back to normal. Obviously that wasn't true. Right. And, we didn't know what people were thinking. And, like, I think you genuinely cared about the people who were buying from you, not turning into, Netflix watchers sitting at home, right? Like, you really wanted them to stay on top of what they were doing and continue being the animal that they were trying to be in their gym life. Yeah. Yeah. It was,
it was quite a hurdle to get over. And again, we pivoted with the help of you and being able to work together and get this thing, jump started. And again, very fortunate to have met you and been able to be in that position, because if we didn't have you to be able to help us through that transition, it would have been quite a bumpy ride.
Well, I appreciate all the kind words. You don't have to talk me up too much on the podcast. Actually, go ahead. I will listen even longer if you want to. But no, I had a lot of fun working with you guys. Your employee Mike, he's an awesome dude. I think it was really cool. One of the things that we were working on towards the end of it was you started working with Big E. And so last week's episode, I had Cody Whittick, talking about seeding influencers and working with influencers. And so this was one of my first experiences working with somebody certainly of that stature. Can you talk about, like, what it was like or like how that came about and what it was like to work with, a WWE superstar?
Yeah, Big E's been awesome. He's been great for us. We got in contact with him through a mutual friend of ours that put me in touch with him. And that was back to, me and you just kicking around ideas, seeing like, hey, how can we get some people, influencers that'll be influential for the brand, to start making some posts or at least get behind it. And that's how we ended up reaching out to Big E. He was really, really open to working with us. We sent him some product. He tried it. He enjoyed everything that we sent him. And the relationship's been great since then. He's been nothing but good to us.
Yeah, I think, I learned a lot. So last week, just having Cody on, I learned a lot listening to Cody, and I knew I was going to talk to you 2 days later. And so my brain the whole time is thinking of you, of like, man, this seeding thing is genius, right? Like, how, and some of your products you have great margins on. Like, how much could Mr. Tweer afford to send out this Astroflav, either whether it's the protein, whether it's the pre-workouts, whether it's some of the other interesting products I think you have. Like, I think you could seed, for the lack of a better word, you could see the shit out of this. And there's no shortage of some guy flexing his abs or some girl doing a workout. Like there's no shortage of people, again, being tribal and like showing off what they love on Instagram or on TikTok or on Snapchat or wherever they're showing off what they live and breathe, which is fitness.
Yeah, so I would say to anybody listening to this episode to go back to the previous episode and definitely give that a listen, because I picked up a ton of clues that I was jotting down notes myself, just saying, oh, that's a great idea, or this is a great idea. How could we implement that in our industry? Now, with our industry, it is very competitive with the products that some of these people are receiving. They're getting stuff from this company, that company. I think it just comes down to just being relatable. And I think Cody mentioned it. He says, just there's no strings attached. I mean, try the products. If you like it, then we could talk from there. It's more so with us trying to be able to find athletes or ambassadors who aren't already locked up in contracts with other companies, or you try to catch them in between deals that they're doing.
It's hard not to think ROI, right? I brought it up before the call. I was like, I want to talk Big E. And you were like, here's what we were paying him. And we were trying to track the ROI. And I was just like, yeah, that's where my head goes too, right? As a business owner, you want to think transactionally, but just having someone with that kind of following and that kind of clout and big in that, in the WWE universe, whether that's your customer or not, that's a different question, right? Is he reaching your customer? But like having someone like that, just take a scoop of your protein powder on camera, like that brand messaging is huge.
Yeah, it's cool. It's again, it's similar to the shirt example that I gave earlier. Was you're never going to see a direct ROI on it in that unless you have specific measuring tools in place to be able to track that. But again, just the brand awareness, what measurement, like how do you quantify that? It's just, you can't, it doesn't hurt. I mean, to put it lightly, it's great for the brand for him to be representing it and using the products and showing face. And he's a great personality for it. He fits our branding very well. And he's one example of, however many that we'd be able to reach out to, again, with the seeding and getting the products out there. Where the podcast that I was referring to, your podcast, it made me revisit that idea where I think we were kind of taking our foot off the gas. Then I heard that episode and I'm just like, oh yeah, we got to get back into reaching out and getting some product in the hands of some different faces.
So I'm a big fan of Nick Coates, and I know he's not doing this for you, but oftentimes in agencies, or when you get big enough, you'll bring in a VC. I think Taylor Holiday just had a big, massive tweet about this today, where they'll come in and they want to drive the bottom line. They want to drive revenue, right? And he called it squeezing the sponge. And so I get this often too with consulting clients who come in and they want to see big numbers, but they don't refill that sponge. And so people will lean into remarketing. They will lean into their email list and burn the shit out of it. And then they will ride your own name, and you'll get a lot of sales riding your own name, running a text ad for your own name, measuring your own name, right? And so you should, right? When you're seeding these, you should measure, are people searching Astroflav more? Is my organic traffic going up? Things like that. That's how you can measure this stuff. But if you're not filling that cup, if you're not out there seeding, if you're not out there, dealing with Big E or other things like that, eventually your name's going to stop getting searched. Your email list is going to get burned out. Your marketing list is going to disappear. And while you had a nice little boost in sales in the beginning, you're going to run out, and then you don't have anything top of the funnel either. And so I'm a big fan of sending this stuff out. I was convinced too. Cody convinced me to start sending out a ton of the pet supplements behind me. And again, I knew I was talking to you 2 days later, so I was like, I gotta make sure he listened to that. And like, your industry is just so fun, man. If you can get this product in people's hands, they go nuts about it.
Yeah, I think that's what it comes down to, is just finding people that fit your brand personality and identity, and aligning with whoever it is that you're looking to work with. We aligned well with Big E, spoke with him a couple of times prior to even send the product out his way. And it was just, it's somebody that I would consider a friend and I would hang out with outside of the working relationship. So yeah, again, it's just finding the right fit personality wise and alignment wise. And I think the sky's the limit from there.
So I have a couple questions about some of the things I think you do that most people aren't doing. And so I want to know genuinely. So one of the first things I saw you doing was every order that came in, you were literally writing a handwritten note with every single order, which sounds unscalable to me, right? Like it sounds almost awful. I bet your employees, some days you're like, man, I had to write out, 50 orders or whatever, but it's the unscalable things that really make a difference in the business, right? And even when I was working with you, we were trying to work out this love your customer sequence that is well beyond handwritten notes to get people to come back and really just become a raving fan of your business. So can you tell me how that all started? Like, where did you get the very first idea to do some of the extra things you do that go above and beyond that really set you apart?
Yeah, I think when we first launched the e-commerce side in Astroflav, outside of Jersey Shore supplements, I was struggling to give that experience where customers just going on your site, they're clicking the products, they're checking out, they receive the products a couple of days later. There was no above and beyond, where if you were to visit us in store and in person, I'm shaking your hand, I'm building relationships with you, I'm looking you in the eye, I'm walking you through the process. It was a lot different experience for me. So I had to take a step back and look at it as an outsider and say, okay, well, what can we do to give more of that experience in store via online? And you were a big help with that. You introduced us to Bonjoro app, where with each order, not only do we handwrite a handwritten thank you card, we also send a thank you video. And I was mentioning to you off air the number of videos that I've sent out this year alone. It's we like to call it inefficiently effective. So it's very hard to scale, but it's extremely effective. So to have our guys manually writing thank you cards, and a lot of the times I personally try to send out the videos. I can't get to all of them, but I do try to send the majority of those out. But yeah, it's I think it's the little things that make the big difference, where the responses that we receive back from those videos that we're sending out, it lets the customer know that they're being heard. I mean, I'm looking at their specific order, everything that they've purchased with us, whether it's a first time order or they repeat order. So I'm seeing the history that they've shopped with us. It adds to that experience.
I've been pitching Bonjoro on the last few episodes as like a sponsor of the show. I can't speak highly enough about it. I learned it from George as well, back in his mastermind, but like the ability to send a personalized video after an order, it's game changing. Like, I know you said you're starting to measure what the open rate is, and the response rate as one of your KPIs. Are you comfortable sharing those numbers? And then, like, I would assume the reply rate, just based on my own business, is low, but when they do come through, they are blown away. They are shocked that you would go out of your way to send them this video.
Yeah, so we were measuring that. Now that's something that we measure weekly. Currently, we're just under 70% as far as the open rate. Reply rate is obviously going to be lower. We're at a 21% reply rate, but the open rate is what we're striving for. We just want to, at least, if we want the video to at least be seen. But to touch on what you just said, it's like, I can't express how impactful these videos are. When the customers receive them, they're just blown away to get. I can't say enough good stuff about Bonjoro videos and the platform, and thank you enough for introducing us to that, because it's been a tool that we have in our tool belt that we really lean heavily into, and I can't suggest it highly enough.
Yeah, $25 a month is a no-brainer. This is starting to turn into an ad, and I don't care. BenKnegdorf.com/Bonjoro. Check out my link. I'll put it in the show notes. But like, seriously, $25 a month to have that extra touch point with your customer. And like, if 1 out of 10 of those people mention your name again to one of their friends, that was worth your $25 investment right there. It's free advertising, and it's doing the right thing. Like, I know we try to build a love your customer sequence. So like, the fact that you're writing a handwritten note with every single order, you're sending a Bonjoro from the founder with every single order. And I believe you and I started talking about, can we send a shaker bottle with every order? Like, number one, we got to get them to use the product, right? So can we send something with to get them to put it out so that they're using it? Can we send a shaker bottle with so that they can preload it for their gym the next day? Can we send them those little funnels that they can carry with them on a carabiner on their car keys so that they can fill it up and bring it with them to the gym if they don't want the shaker bottle? What are all the extra things that you can send along to just blow them away that doesn't really affect your bottom line, but really shows the customer that you're thinking about them? Oh, and on top of that, it has your branding on it, so people are going to see it on the keys. After their third order, we can send them a free shirt. After their fourth order, they can get a free hat. Like, you can blow the customer away, all while getting the intangible ROI that you're hoping for.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking as you're speaking, I'm thinking to myself, it's like, it's the little things that show the gratitude, that show that you're grateful for that customer taking the time to shop with you. It's like, how do you differentiate yourself from the competitors that where, again, I know at some point it's hard to scale a system like that, but I just think to myself, like if they only knew how grateful we were for them to shop with us or to even click on our site, like how do you pass that message along? So these are like the little things that we can show, that we can do to show how much, we do appreciate them.
Yeah, there's a good example out there. He's your competitor, of course. But I did a little tweet about your competitor of once I got over $100 in my cart, they offered me a free shirt. I got to checkout. They asked me for my Instagram handle, which I wasn't sure why. I thought they were just going to follow me. As soon as the order, 20 minutes after the order was done, I get a message request in Instagram. It's a video message, so I have to play it. I can't preview it. I have to play it. As soon as I click play, they know I watched it, and it was there. The guy holding my box and was like, "Hey, this is your order. It's going to go out. What you ordered, the reds powder is one of my favorites. Definitely get the greens next time. Mix them together. Blah 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 blah." Handwritten note from that dude in the box. Like, there's a lot to learn from some of the monsters in your arena of like how to do this right, and it really pays dividends. I mean, it caused me to write out a 20 tweet storm that took me an hour and a half to write out, and it was worth it. I'm going to keep buying Astroflav, though. I hope he doesn't mind. I actually bought it as a test to teach you something. So good for them, but it taught us what we can do for your business.
They do it right. And it's the same background story, starting in retail into pivoting into a bigger platform. And it starts from the ground up. They do the right things. And that's what we're trying to instill in our own company as well.
Well, and speaking of tribing and polarizing, the founder has his own podcast, which is a little out there, if you ask me. Like, do you think that's branding for them? Do you think maybe he's just gone off the deep end? I'm genuinely curious, and I'm just wondering what your opinion is, and I can cut this out if you'd like me to.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think I don't know. It's not my personality per se. Like, it's not something that I would be comfortable doing, but it tends to work for them. And I think the people that buy into it and believe in certain opinions really buy into it and really believe in certain opinions.
Yeah, I think you need that in your business, right? You can't make everyone like you. You need to be for someone. And he's definitely for a certain type of people, and those people are loud, right? And they probably, worship every word he says and buy everything he sells. And I think that is the right way to do business. In theory, again, I'm not sure I believe everything he's preaching as well.
Yeah, I think that's something that's like a personal struggle that I have, whether it's, social media or podcasts or whatever the platform may be. I tend to be very introverted, and it's a struggle for me to get out there and try to be heard. So that's why with the behind the scene things like Bonjoro or the handwritten notes, like that's my way of expressing myself without, having to videotape myself with my opinion on whatever it may be. It's just another way to get my voice and the company's voice out there.
You said before the call you're doing this with some of your brick and mortar partners as well that are selling Astroflav in their stores. You're using Goldbelly, is that right?
Yeah. So again, going back to how do you give that awesome experience with working with one another? And if somebody is going to take the time to reach out to us and stock our products and be willing and happy to, put them in the customer's hands that they're dealing with, every time that a wholesale order comes through, every time a new wholesale order. So if a new account was to open up with us and place an order with us, we actually go on a website, Goldbelly, and we're sending them something unique, something like ice cream sandwiches or chocolate chip cookies or pizza from Chicago, just something a little bit different versus, your typical, hey, thanks for the order. Here's a free tub of protein. We just want to show we're going above and beyond. We're writing a thank you note to them as well. A lot of times in the past, I've sent Bonjoro videos to the store owner. Sometimes it's a little bit tricky because the Instagram isn't always ran by the actual store owner. So I'll send the videos out same way with Bonjoro. It's just via Instagram. And again, not every video is being seen, but the ones that are, they're impactful. I mean, at the end of the day, everybody it's a peer-to-peer connection. It's people to people. They just want to be heard. They want to be seen. They want to know that their voice matters. So if you could take the, 2 minutes out of your day to just say, thank you for your order. Thank you for your business. It goes a long way.
Yeah. I love the idea. I don't personally work with any retailers other than Chewy and Amazon. So I'm not going to send anything to Chewy, but like if I was in some stores, if I was in some mom and pop shops, I love that idea. One brand I've been sending lately to people I care about is Taylor Chip cookies. So if you check them out, taylorchip.com, I believe is what it is. Literally the best cookie I've ever had in my entire life. It's actually kind of a problem, if I'm honest with you. They're so good. And so like, definitely recommend, send that to people you care about. Send it to, your manufacturers. If you're retailing like I do in high ticket drop shipping, send it to them. Thank them for, the business you're doing with them, and it's all about building real relationships. I can't speak enough to, again, George, relationships beat algorithms. He's right, man. It's all about people in this business.
Yeah. And it's something that I think I was fortunate enough to grasp that concept without even realizing it. So when I heard somebody like George mention it and go through the process and writing everything out, it really was just like, oh, wow, this is something that I'm already doing. But to hear somebody, what's the word I'm looking for? Just basically putting their stamp of approval on it and really just saying like, yes, this is the right thing. It was comforting, and it felt good to know, okay, yeah, we're onto something. Like we are doing it the right way. We're doing the little things that matter. Again, and something that, it's funny because we started off with, I know we dove into cryptocurrency and all that, but it all ties back. And it was something I was mentioning at one of our meetings was it's all about delayed gratification, right? I could have sold that cryptocurrency X amount of months ago and made a profit, but you're giving up, something near term for something better, further out. And I think it goes hand in hand with business and starting slow. And as long as you're doing the right thing, if you were to compound that effort and effect, it's going to lead to success. The timeline might be a little bit different than what you're expecting initially, but long term, you're onto something.
Well, time's going to pass anyway, right? So
yeah,
might as well continue doing what you love. I think that's what you and I discussed, possibly, coming on board and doing a partnership. And one of the very first things you said was, I don't know if I'll ever sell. Like you love it. This is what you do. You're thinking very long term. And so, coming from the world I do, where everybody's trying to hit their number and get their exit and get out, it was like, wow, this guy's really got his head on his shoulders. And I'm going to be honest, man. Just man to man, I miss chatting with you, man. I miss the calls we had together. And you're a genuinely great human being. Where's Jersey Shore and Astroflav going from here?
Yeah, I mean, we're just going to continue doing our thing with the storefronts. I don't see us necessarily expanding on that side of things. I think our main focus now is the Astroflav and just trying to build that business, get into more wholesale side of things, more retailers, supporting the brand, and just connecting with the end consumer and trying to get our story out there.
Well, I would recommend everybody go check out astroflav.com. I'll put both of those in the show notes. How can people reach out to you if they want to get a hold of you, buddy?
So I'm not too big on social media, but I would say if anything, Instagram, you could always reach out to me on there. If you were to send me a DM, I'll get back to you for sure.
Well, I miss you. Like I said, man, you're a genuinely good human, and I miss chatting with you. So I'm glad I could have you on the show.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you as always.
Big thanks to Brian Tweer for coming on the show. Easily my biggest takeaway from that is listen to your customers, whether that is telling you something you need to change on your website by watching them move around your website, whether that is listening to them about features they wish in products that you sell so that you can go out and create the product you want, whether it's listening to them to understand their before state and their after state and like how you can bust the objections in between and really address them where they're at. Listening to your customers is the number one thing you can do in your business. And Brian embodies that. You can see that. That's how he originally started Jersey Shore Supplements. That's how he moved into Astroflav. That's how he learned what products to carry. That is how he knew his customers were looking for flavor, because protein shakes taste like crap. If you're looking for flavor too, if you love protein shakes or pre-workouts or any of the other things that Astroflav carries, I can't recommend them enough. I will put the link in the show notes. It is Astroflav with the E on the end. You will like their products. I can almost guarantee it. So check them out. Make sure to buy some stuff from Brian, support him, and who knows, you'll end up getting a Bonjoro in return. Again, we were brought to you by Bonjoro. I hope you appreciated the ad in the episode. It wasn't really an ad. It was kind of impromptu, but Brian and I both love it. I'm the reason he started using it. George is the reason I started using it, and I've been using it ever since. I know Brian has too. Again, if you want to check that out, go buy something from Astroflav, go buy something from my pet supplement company, and you will see what Bonjoro is. But I can't recommend it enough. It's $25. So check it out, benconnegaff.com/Bonjoro. Implement it in your business and let me know how it works out for you. Super glad all of you were listening. If you have a couple seconds, please go leave a review on iTunes. It really, really does impact the quality of guests. and the people that we can reach. Hop on my email list. Again, you'll find that in the show notes. I'm going to start emailing people more. Go follow me on Twitter. All of the things. I appreciate all of you. Everyone who's been here for all 41 episodes, I appreciate you more than words can describe. Thank you so much for listening. And I will see all of you next Wednesday.